afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sister.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to our seminar. Welcome. I'm Sister Michelle. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our SMIC team that helps make this webinar happen. To Dr. Eddie, our president, Sister Regina, our academic team, both of you are our inspirations. And to our staff, Melissa, Shine, who are behind the scene today and run all of these webinars. And to all our speakers, thank you for your generosity to share your knowledge and precious experience with us. So today is Dr. Isa will give us her experience about the Officeworkers. Okay, let's welcome Dr. Isa.
Thank you, sister. I just saw people in the breakout room. I'm not sure what to do about that.
Okay, I will talk. I will cooperate.
Okay. All right. So, good afternoon. Sister Michelle asked me to give a lecture on back pain in office workers, but give a TCM perspective. Okay. So, wait, sorry. All right. So first we look at the anatomy of the human body. When we talk about the back, the first thing that we think of is the spine. And knowing the spine, I think a lot of us know that there's a cervical part, the upper part. The long curve after is the thoracic. And the next curve going towards the belly is the lumbar region. So there's a reason why it has all of these different curves. It's so that they can balance each other out. Because we are bipeds. We're standing on 2 feet. So the back's job is to maintain us over our center of gravity. And in between these bones, there are nerves that go out that innervate the body. So the bones also function to protect these nerves. That's just a basic overview. Next is the muscles that hold the spine together. So our muscles work to give us movement. They also give us some form and stability. So they're connected to the bones to help move the body around and also to protect them. So if, let's say, your bones move to a certain side, there are muscles on the other side that can pull it back. They initiate movement. And if you dissect the muscle, it will look like that. The muscle has different compartments and different parts, but I want you to focus on this one, the single muscle fiber. There are 2 types of these fibers depending on what the muscle's job is. So just to make it simple, there are 2 main types. You've probably heard of the slow twitch and the fast twitch fibers. If you're sprinting, if you need energy right away, your muscle will have more fast twitch fibers because it gives you that quick jolt of energy, but it will tire or fatigue really fast. Now, the slow twitch fibers, they provide more endurance. They're slower. And these are the muscles that you need more in your back when you're sitting. Because when you're sitting, you need the muscles to stay that way for a longer period of time. You don't want them to get tired right away. So just remember there are 2 types. So that's the Western view of the back. For traditional Chinese medicine or in Eastern medicine, there's another dimension. You add these energy bodies, these highways of energy at the back that we call meridians. And this is where qi or energy passes. So in acupuncture, you're probably familiar with these models, with these lines at the back. Think of them as highways of energy. So if there's a problem in your shoulder, we look at the highways of energy that pass through it. Why is there traffic? What's blocking the flow? Why is that part reacting? If it's in your lower back, look at those 5 lines. We look at those. And there are other lines also underneath, deep inside of them. We look at them also. Like, what is going on? Why is there either too much going on, too little going on, a blockage, etc.? So this is another dimension of the body that TCM or Eastern medicine looks at. The candle. So there are 3 treasures in the human body. There is the Jing, your essence. If you're a candle, this is the wax. This is the more solid part of your body that helps create energy. So qi is the flame. It's like an electricity or the energy that powers your body. The qi becomes the shen. The shen is your spirit, your mind, your brilliance, how you radiate into the world. So these three treasures, this is what TCM looks for in the body. How well stocked are your three treasures? Now, the jing, the essence, is housed in your lower back, underneath your abdomen. There, in Chinese medicine, they call this the Ming Men, the life gate. You have a fire there in your lower back that has to be preserved because this is the ultimate source of yang or aggressive or strong energy in your body. This is the wax that creates everything else that will need to power you as a candle, if that makes any sense. And if you're familiar with images of this, like meditators, they always have this position where they're cultivating something underneath the abdomen. That is the Ming Men, sometimes called the lower dantian, the lower energy field. So that part always has to be on fire, I guess you could say, because that's also translated into your life gate fire. So if you were a furnace, a fireplace, that is your ultimate source of energy. It's housed between your kidneys. And there's a special emphasis on the kidneys in traditional Chinese medicine because meditators cultivate, and it's found in between the kidneys in the Eastern anatomy of the body. So the kidneys also take care of the bones. So Western medicine already confirmed this, like it's in charge of this is the metabolism of minerals. They control minerals like calcium, phosphorus, those other things, which are needed in bone metabolism in the body. So anytime there's a bone issue, they say, look at the force or the energies of the kidneys. So for back pain, see this earlier, my only point here, wait, let me fix this here. My only point here is that in Western medicine, they look at the structural changes in the spine. So we have very advanced imaging techniques. Whatever the changes are, may they be from an infection, from a trauma, from degenerative changes, they look at how the shape changes and they try to bring it back. There's a big focus on the physical structure. If not on the, there. If not on this, they also look at the muscles. Now the muscles either have strain or a sprain. Now these sound the same, but they're very different. A strain is when there's a tear in the muscle or a tendon. A sprain is when the ligament, a ligament is a fibrous tissue that holds the bones together. It allows movement. But not too much movement. Yeah, ito naman, napuputol. It gets torn in a sprain. So either way, these two can happen when they look at the musculature of the body, if the problem is there regarding back pain. Now, for TCM, it's a little different, and I'm sure a lot of people here have some background in Chinese medicine. They look at three things. There could be a stagnation of qi and blood. Remember, there are highways of energy that are traveling around the body. There's an invasion of pathogenic cold and dampness. So cold and dampness are climactic factors that can invade the movement of energy in the body. Anything that is cold, it congeals, it closes off. Like when you have a wound, you put ice on it so that it contracts it, but it stops bleeding. Dampness is heaviness in the body. So it's like if your energy highways are a river, it's like there's so much sludge. It's so heavy. It's not flowing properly. That's what dampness is. So these could be invading your energy channels, or there could be kidney qi deficiency. Remember, the kidneys, they're in charge of creating healthy bones. There's also the Mingmen fire in charge of the yang force in the body. So that could be deficient and manifesting as pain. So stagnation of qi and blood could be from trauma. If there's literally something that affected the channels, then they suddenly stop and there's stagnation. could also be excessively comfortable life and lack of exercise, because the Wang Din Jing, a classic in Chinese medicine, says that it impairs the circulation of qi and blood. It doesn't allow good movement. Now, invasion of pathogenic cold and damp comes from the environment. Too much aircon, too much cold drinks, maybe you're swimming in cold waters, whatever. Too directly, okay? Qi deficiency comes from a lot of things. Very common in office workers are stress and overwork. So remember, kidney qi, the Ming Men fire, this is the candle wax. So if you, as a candle, you have so much to do, you use up so much of your wax. So it makes your kidneys work overtime and you're using up its resources. This one. So these are the causes of these. So if there's invasion of cold and dampness, it's literally from a cold and damp environment. It's from aircon touching your back. It's from you swimming in cold waters. So it's a literal invasion of a climactic factor on your energy channels. Now, kidney qi deficiency comes from stress, overwork, multiple pregnancies, excessive sexual activities, or strenuous exercise. Basically, when you're asking so much from your body, it uses up a lot of its resources to do this. Remember, you're like a candle. So when you do something, you need that fire. To make the fire, you need to use up the wax, and that is your essence. So nauubos ang kidney qi mo. You're using up your kidney qi when you do all of these. So next. So I mentioned earlier, but I think I think I died before this came out. So if you're not sure what the pathology is of your back pain, you look at these symptoms. If it's more recent in onset, if it's severe, if there's stiffness, if the character of the pain is piercing, like it's stabbing your back, and you cannot turn your waist, there's probably a stagnation of qi and blood. So because it's stagnated, when you exercise, you start moving and there's improvement, then this is probably the cause. Next, if there's an invasion of pathogenic cold and dampness, the pain is also severe. It's aggravated by more cold and dampness in the environment. But when you apply heat, you alleviate the pain. That's self-explanatory. The pain is more dull in character, and there's a feeling of heaviness. With this, it's more dampness invading the channels. If it improves with light exercise, then there's probably cold in your channels. If it's worse in the morning but improves throughout the day, then there is cold in your channels. Now, the opposite naman. If it's continuous, dull, and better with rest, then you have a deficiency problem. If it's better in the morning, worse in the day, again, it's a deficiency because you just slept. So you have more energy in the morning. But as you do your activities, you feel the pain coming in. That means you're using up your energy and your kidneys cannot keep up. So you have the third diagnosis. Now, there's another way also of checking what type of back pain you have. And they say it's by checking your ear. So if you're familiar with ear diagnosis, you know that, ear acupuncture, the ear is shaped like an inverted fetus. And the parts corresponding on this fetus corresponds to those parts on your body. So in the upper part of the ear, in that fleshy part underneath the helix, that is where the low back pain is. Yes, that's where the low back pain is. So I got this from eLotus. I just have to mention because the photos are all from there. You look at that part of your ear. If there are red vessels in that area, then you probably have acute inflammation. So your qi and blood is probably stagnant in that area. If there is purplish signs in that area, purple is a sign of stagnation. Could also be of cold. Things are not moving in that area. There's no warmth traveling there. So there is inherent or internal cold. Yeah, so it says, the eLotus article says there's a past injury. But when there's a past injury, that just means that things aren't flowing properly there. So there could be internal cold. Could be stagnation also. but I just place it under cold. The last one, if there's a cartilage protrusion in that area, if there's a structural deformity in that part of your ear, there's probably also a structural deformity in your spine, in your lower back. Could be inborn, it could be acquired, but they say to check. I think the author, sorry, I forgot the name of the author, but he said that this will always be accurate. So look at your ears, take a photo of your ears and see how they are right now. Okay, this is something I want to just mention, the evolutionary perspective. Because the last things we mentioned, both Western and Eastern, they seem to be recent. Like there is a tear, there is a break, there is a degeneration all of a sudden. But we're not seeing how our lifestyles create back pain. So personally, I love reading evolutionary biology books. This is from one of my favorites, from Daniel Lieberman. He mentioned three problems with prolonged sitting. One is there's an energy balance problem. Two, it causes a lot of muscle atrophy. And three, there is muscle shortening, particularly in the pelvis. So the energy balance, it says that every hour you sit, you burn 20 calories less than standing. So that's just 1 hour. So times 8, that is, if you work 8 hours or longer, that's about 160 plus. That's just in one day. That's about a number of, I think you burn about 160 calories with a 30-minute walk. So those are calories you could have burned, but they're staying in you. So that adds up if you do this every day. So they say there's a staggering difference in the end. So this is an accumulative thing. It's not something you notice right away. Muscle atrophy. This is, if you remember the muscle fibers I mentioned earlier. So your muscles, when you don't use them, you lose them. So they will deteriorate when you're just sitting because you're not at work. And what you lose when your muscles atrophy during prolonged sitting or bad posture are your slow twitch endurance fibers. Remember I mentioned earlier there are two kinds of fibers. So over time, your back isn't as strong. The endurance is getting very weak. And eventually, like a small trigger might probably bring some tear because over time, you were losing these slow twitch fibers. So you're not realizing it, but the endurance, the strength of your back, of your core is getting weaker. Now, muscle shortening, right there. If you look at the red part of her hips, those are the muscles holding the hips together. So these are shorter, they're flexed. And if you keep them that way, they stay that way. So this happens in any muscle. In women, they say if you wear high heels often, your calves are a lot shorter than women who don't use high heels because they're flexed more. So with sitting, your hip flexors are flexed for a long period of time. When they stay that way, they shorten. So when you stand up, there's now an imbalance in protecting your back and holding your back in place. Other muscles will have to compensate. And this just causes a lot of other imbalances with the bones and the other muscles. So if we correlate this to what I mentioned earlier with the TCM pathophysiologies, muscle atrophy is like your kidney Qi deficiency. Muscle shortening, it could be cold or dampness in the area because this isn't just external cold entering the area. If there's no proper blood flow, there's no warmth in the area, then that's internal cold. Now, if all of this become weaker, you're now more prone to trauma, and trauma can cause stagnation of qi and blood. So I guess this is a way to correlate West and Eastern philosophies. So management. Knowing all of this, what can we do about them? In TCM clinics, we have different modalities. Obviously, there's acupuncture, which a lot of us know about. So if you remember the energy channels earlier, acupuncture helps regulate the qi to flow through all the energy channels. to release the stagnations, to strengthen the kidneys, all of that. Moxibustion, applying heated herbs, either on a needle or there could be also directly on top without the needle. So you warm the channels. This helps release the cold and the dampness because anything that's warm moves the qi. There's also gua sha or scraping. So this can release the pathogens, again promoting more movement in the channels. There's also ventosa, like sucking out the pathogens if there's cold or dampness in the area. Again, also opening up the channels. There's electroacupuncture, it's a personal favorite of mine. This can relax the muscles or strengthen them. It depends on the setting that you use. But this has a very good effect on muscles. Tuina, massage, but this is a massage with knowledge of the energy channels. So instead of you moving them around, the practitioner will move it around manually. Plum blossom is another modality. It's not very common in clinics though. There are few needles at the end of this tiny hammer, and they usually like poke on the energy channels. They call the yang energy towards that area. So they do this along the energy meridians to open them up, to call the energy there. Again, to release stagnation and deficiencies. Last are ear seeds, because if you remember the photo of the child, the fetus that I showed you, they just put the ear seeds on the corresponding area, and by pressing it, you can relieve pain or any symptoms in that area or in that organ. Evolutionary medicine, because everything was so flexed with prolonged sitting, they recommend extending the back and the hips. So we still have to sit at some point. So the point is to counter what you're doing by extending everything eventually. You can also sit on a stool or ball to activate the core. A big part of evolutionary medicine is saying that you shouldn't be too comfortable. The problem with this image of wellness is that we think being comfy and relaxed is healthy, but it's not all the time. We have to be working and moving ourselves. So the book mentioned lazy boy chairs, like it's so comfortable, it relaxes all your muscles, but too much of it promotes some atrophy. So sit on a stool, sit on a ball, that's better for your back. Sleep on a firm mattress also. So they say at night, sleeping on a firm mattress is like exercise for your spine. If the mattress is too soft, then your muscles again are too relaxed, they will atrophy. But the correct firmness of a mattress is a mini workout for your spine at night, for your spinal muscles, at night. So they're stronger when you wake up. Last, they also advise building a healthy back with moderate intensity workloads all day. So they're slightly against very heavy exercise. It's too much strain on the muscles and the bones. They want moderate intensity all day, and all day includes night. Kaya nga sila nagsabi na firm mattress then. So movements. They say also to watch out for labor-saving devices. Just stuff that we do all day that we don't realize are not healthy for how our bodies were made, like shopping carts or suitcases. Like everything, we don't carry things enough, they say. We don't focus on strengthening our muscles and bones anymore, unlike our ancestors. And this modern lifestyle is just not it's not something we're adapting to right away. So our physical bodies are getting the grunt of it. For TCM lifestyle, avoid cold and damp pathogens. So even if we live in a tropical country, we're all exposed to aircon and cold drinks. So all of this cold and dampness, like we're putting it in our bodies, we're exposing ourselves to them, and you already know what they do to the body. But it can't be helped that sometimes we get exposed to them. I mean, when you go swimming, or I guess if you still go to air-conditioned rooms, as long as you remove the cold and the damp pathogens, that should be helpful. Sun exposure to the back is good. Warming herbs, whether you drink them, you apply them, it's just countering what you just went through, because we still have to live our modern lives. Strengthen the kidney qi or the Mingmen fire. This is where breathwork exercises come in. These are those exercises like yoga, qigong, tai chi. Proper sleep at night, because that's when you let the yin energy take over so the yang can rest. And the yin nourishes your yang. So when you wake up, you have more Ming Men, yang energy powering you. There is also adequate nutrition, of course, mindfulness, because too much mental activities can also drain your fire. So living a lifestyle where you're more, that's more nourishing and cultivating for yourself is very healthy for your kidney qi or Mingmen fire. Finally, relieve stagnated blood and energy through movement. Yeah, so I'll end this talk with this quote from the Wang Di Neijing. It's a classic in Chinese medicine. It says that I have heard in the days of old, everyone lived 100 years without showing the usual signs of aging. In our time, however, people age prematurely, living only 50 years. Is this due to our environment or is it because people have lost the way? Chibo, his court physician, replied, in the past, people practiced the way. They understood the principle of the balance of yin and yang. Thus, they formulated practices such as meditation to help maintain harmony with the universe. They ate balanced diets at regular times, arose and retired at regular hours, avoided overburdening their bodies and minds, and refrained from overindulgences of all kinds. They maintained well-being in body and mind. Thus, it is not surprising that they lived over 100 years. These days, people have changed their ways. They drink wine like water, indulge in excessive eating and other destructive behavior. They drain their essence and deplete their energy, seeking emotional excitement and momentary pleasures. People disregard the natural rhythm and order of the universe. They fail to regulate their lifestyle and diet. They sleep improperly. They do not know the secrets of conserving their energy and vitality. So it is not surprising that they look old at 50 and die soon after. So I guess the message is pretty clear. Both Chinese medicine and evolutionary medicine say that our lifestyles should match the capacities of our bodies. There's actually a term now called mismatch diseases, when what you do doesn't match what your body was made to do. So by just filling in that gap, by being more mindful of what we do, then we can help prevent some modern day diseases like back pain. Thank you.